Hey everyone, this is Andrea from Doctors of Running, and today I'm here to do a full video review of the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 2. I love running in the Wave Rebellion Pro 1, and I was excited to try the Pro 2 because I heard that it had some updates that I thought I might like, and I'll get into all of those in a minute. But first, let's talk about the specs of this shoe. So weight, it's 7.6 ounces or 215 grams for a men's size 9. Stack height in the heel, we've got 38 millimeters. In the forefoot, we've got 36.5. That gives it a stated drop of 1.5 millimeters. Now, they must be measuring the heel from this point, like where if you set the shoe flat, the first point where the rear foot touches the ground, because this shoe really doesn't feel like a 1.5 millimeter drop shoe. It feels more like 4 to 6 millimeters to me. So don't let that spec keep you from trying the shoe. Of course, the most radical design of the shoe is the aggressive heel bevel. And the heel bevel has actually gotten even more aggressive compared to version 1. And I actually really like the more aggressive bevel in version 2, and I'll talk more about that in a minute as well. But let's talk about the midsole a little bit more. So like version 1, this is a dual density midsole. We've got Energy Light Plus as the top layer. We've got a carbon infused wave plate, and then the bottom layer is Energy Light. The midsole feels really responsive and actually a little bit unstable. It's definitely not a shoe to run easy in. Feels better at faster paces. It's not a soft material, like it doesn't feel like a marshmallow. There's really no sinking in feeling. You really just feel like you land, and the combination of the responsive midsole and the aggressive rocker geometry just propels you forward. So those looking for a soft shoe, this is definitely not it. But if you're looking for a high stack, really responsive, really protective racing shoe, this could be a good option for you. The outsole has the same G3 rubber that version 1 did. I really like this outsole because you can actually feel it gripping the ground. Like it kind of feels like it bites into the ground, especially if the road is wet or if there's a little bit of sand or dirt on the road. So it gives me a lot of confidence that if I use this shoe in a rainy race that I wouldn't have any traction issues. The upper is an engineered mesh. It's pretty thin, very breathable. Haven't had any issues running in it in 30-degree weather. One of my workouts was in 50-degree weather, so, I haven't really tested in hot weather, but comfortable material, very breathable, no hot spots, really well designed, I would say. So let's get into the fit of the shoe. So generally Mizuno shoes fit a little bit short and a little bit narrow in the forefoot. So I asked Mizuno to send me a men's 8 instead of my usual women's 9.5. I'm glad that I did because, one, in the Wave Rebellion Pro 2, they widened the forefoot, and I definitely noticed an improvement in the fit of the forefoot over version 1, and even more so since I got the men's version. I haven't had any pressure on my 5th MTP or my 1st MTP. Feels like my toes just have enough width. This is definitely not an anatomical toe box, but it's comfortable. I really like the width, especially for a racing shoe. The length feels like, ideally it would be like 2 or 3 millimeters longer on me. It's really a challenge for me to get good lockdown of my foot in the shoe. I can do it every run. I've finally gotten the laces right, but I've had to stop a few times before I really get it dialed in. So the times where I haven't gotten it dialed in, I have had some bruising on my big toenails, but when I do get it dialed in, I don't have any issues. So it's just something you're gonna have to play with, and maybe you won't have the same issues as I have with the lace lockdown. But if you do, play with it a few times, you're probably gonna get it right like I have. One of the features of this shoe that is different from version 1 and has also contributed to the lockdown not being as good in version 1 is they've changed the heel counter. So the heel counter is really flexible now. There's only this semi-rigid plastic piece right along the middle of the back of the heel to give the heel structure. There's tiny padding internally but otherwise the heel doesn't really feel like it's even there. So you're really relying on the laces in the upper to lock your foot down rather than the rear foot. So those who are sensitive to heel counters will probably love this shoe, but just know that because the heel is so flexible, it might be a little harder to get lace locked down at first. The tongue is not gusseted, but what they did is they put 2 lace loops on the tongue to help hold it in place. And I find that that has worked really nicely. I haven't had the tongue move at all on me when I'm running. I haven't gotten any hot spots from the tongue either, so I think that's been really well done. So overall, compared to version 1, the fit, it's just slightly short, which I also found in version 1. The forefoot is wider, which is great. Heel counter is very flexible in version 2, whereas version 1 did have a little more structure. So you're going to find a lot of differences. If you like version 1, the fit is not quite the same. You might like the wider forefoot, you might not. You might like the more flexible rear foot, you might not, but I would definitely encourage you to try it because I've really loved running in this shoe. So let's talk about performance. So one, just a disclaimer, I am a midfoot striker, and how this shoe performs for me, of course, may not be the same for you, especially if you're a rear foot striker. Matt is also reviewing this shoe, and he'll write a full written review as well, so definitely check out his thoughts if you are a heel striker, because the way the shoe performs for me might not apply to you as well. But for me, I tend to land at my lateral midfoot, and this shoe feels like it was made for me. It feels so natural to run in this shoe. Even at easy paces, it doesn't feel that unnatural. I mean, it's not an easy shoe, but it doesn't feel like the heel bevel is in the wrong place for me. But where it really shines for me is half marathon to marathon pace. It feels like I just really get the benefit of landing like right on or right in front of the apex of the heel bevel, and I just land and it just rockets me forward. So this shoe just feels like it's all about forward motion. Because the midsole isn't soft, it's not compliant, there's really no instability medially or laterally. It really just feels like you land and you push off. I love it. Now, the reason I say that it's best at half marathon to marathon pace for me is I did a workout at a bunch of intervals at 10K pace, and it just felt like I wasn't getting the benefit of the apex of the heel bevel at that faster pace. And it felt like I was landing a little too far forward for the apex of the bevel, which made me feel like I had a lot more vertical oscillation. Like it kind of made the shoe feel like a pogo stick. So it still felt fast. It just didn't feel like I was getting the benefit of the geometry of the shoe that I was supposed to. So for me, this will definitely be a half marathon to marathon racer. I would choose a different shoe if I was doing a 10K or something shorter than that. One other feature of the shoe that I've really enjoyed performance-wise is they widened the sole flare in the forefoot a little bit over version 1, which has made the forefoot feel a little more stable to me. Not a lot. This is definitely a neutral shoe, but just stable enough where I just, again, feel like this shoe is all about forward motion. There's no feeling of like instability or lag as you progress from initial contact to push off. Now, one difference between this shoe and version 1 is that they closed that cutout in the medial midfoot that version 1 had. And I definitely noticed that it feels a little more stable than version 1. I tend to have trouble loading my medial forefoot, so I actually liked how that cutout in version 1 felt. It doesn't feel bad to me with it filled in, but those of you who tried version 1 and felt like that cutout there was just too unstable for you, you're probably really going to like this update to version 1. So I've tried this shoe in 3 workouts for a total of 35 miles. One, like I said, at 10K pace. One, I was doing 2-mile repeats at half marathon pace. And then yesterday I did a 16-mile run that had 5 miles at marathon pace in the middle. And it was awesome yesterday for my long run. My legs do not feel as fatigued today as they normally do after a run like that. I didn't have any foot soreness. I just really felt like the shoe did what it's supposed to do, which is help me move forward faster. And it just feels like it's designed to like just keep ticking away the miles at that like moderately fast pace. So this is definitely a potential marathon racer for me. I'm looking forward to using it for a few more long runs and then figuring out what to use in the Osaka Marathon at the end of February. So let's talk about stability a little bit. So this is not a stable shoe. This is a neutral shoe. One, the fit of the upper lockdown is, a little tenuous. You've got to work at it. There's not a lot of heel stability from the flexible counter. So you're really going to have to, one, dial in the laces, but two, the shoe isn't going to provide a lot of stability for you no matter what your stability needs are. So you've got to have pretty good foot, ankle, knee, hip strength. When you have a shoe that is this rockered, we know that it potentially will reduce work at the foot and the ankle, but it's going to transfer that work generally up to your hips. So you've got to have nice strong glutes to be able to handle being pushed into hip extension a little bit quicker. It also puts a little more stress on your hamstrings as well. So again, a neutral shoe, maybe a little more stable in the midfoot because of that filled in portion here, but overall a neutral shoe. So I'll keep you guys updated on what I decide to use for Osaka. I'm definitely going to use it for a few more long runs. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. Shoot us an email at doctorsofrunning@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you later.